Dear students, this is Salim Ahmed, Assistant Professor, Bharat Institute of Law, Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research. In this video session, I will be dealing with dying declaration. So, dying declaration is also one of the very important topic in law of evidence. So, this is a very strong, what to say, strong basis of evidence. See, whenever any offense has been committed, there is always two person who veraciously knew that actually happened. What actually happened? That is, the accused who commit the offense, and the other one is victim, with whom the offense has been committed. In order to prove their position and make one story to be true, they give statements to judge, but their story, one cannot rely on the veracity of the statement which they make to support their stories, as it may be prejudiced or untrue. So generally, the role of witness become crucial to determine the truth. But there is a condition when statement made by the person to be treated as true evidence in spite of the fact that he made the statement in his own favor, or hardly any doubt behind the reason of that statement. That condition is dying declaration. Dying declaration is a statement made by the person while he was dying and states the reason for his death. The statement given by the dying person can be circumstantial or tells the cause of his death. Hence, the only statement given just before the death of the person is called dying declaration. The person who is conscious of compos mentis and knows that the death is about to happen can make a declaration and state the cause of his death, and that statement will be admissible and treated as evidence in the court. Declaration made by the deceased person can be oral, written, and by conduct. The word dying declaration explain the word itself. See, section 32 clause 1 and subsequent section 33 clause 2 uh, of Indian Evidence Act 1872 deal with the relevancy of statement by the person who cannot be called as witness. There is a particular class of people who cannot be called as witness under section 32, and their statement are allowed to be proved in their absence. The list of persons are as follows. First is the person who is dead. This is said to be called as dying declaration. Second is person who cannot be found. Third is person who have become incapable of giving evidence. Fourth is person whose attendance cannot be procured without an amount of delay or expense. Case in which statement of relevant fact by person who is dead or cannot be found, etc., is relevant, written or verbal, or relevant fact made by person who is dead or who cannot be found, or who has become incapable of giving evidence, or whose attendance cannot be procured without an amount of delay or expense, which under the circumstances of the case appears to the court unreasonable, but they are themselves actually facts in the many circumstances. Though Section 60 of Indian Evidence Act 1872 insists that oral evidence must in all cases should be direct. That is, oral evidence must be in all cases, whatever it may be, should be direct. In other words, the hearsay evidence is no evidence. But under Section 32, hearsay evidence is admissible, so it can be said that this Section 32 is an exception to Section 60. Now let us particularly deal with 32 clause 1, that is dying declaration. In Section 32 clause 1 of Indian Evidence Act defines when the statement is made by the person as to the cause of his death or any of the circumstances of the transaction which resulted in his loss of life, in cases in which the cause of that person's death comes into question. Such statement made by the person or relevant whether the person who made them are alive or was not at the time when they were made, under the expectation of death, and whatever may be the nature of the proceeding in which the cause of his death comes into question. The statement made by the deceased person will be treated as evidence and admissible in a court of law. The reason behind this can be followed by Latin maxim nemo meritorius presumptor mentri, which means a man will not meet his maker with lying on his mouth. More precisely, in our Indian law, it is the fact that the dying man can never lie, or uh, a person who is about to die will not lie, or truth sits on the lips of the dying man. Hence, dying declaration is admissible and considered as evidence in court of law and can be used as the weapon to punish the culprits. Now, let me deal with the reason behind the admissibility of dying declaration or the necessity of accepting dying declaration. Firstly, the necessity, the victim being the sole eyewitness of the crime that has been perpetrated upon him. So, excluding his evidence would violate the law of natural justice. Secondly, they are the declaration made by the person under expectation of death. So, it is presumed to be true as the maxim nemo moriturus praemustar uh, praestum praemustar mentar, which means a person who is about to die can never lie, or the truth sits in his tongue at the time of the death because of the fear of Almighty God, whom he will meet as soon as he will die. So he always wanted to reduce his sin by saying the truth as per the mythologies. Now let me deal with the forms of dying declaration. But more particularly, I will be dealing with types of dying declaration. There is no particular form of to be employed in making the dying declaration. It can be oral, written, gestures or sign, thumb impression. It can be even incomplete, and can also be any form. Particularly, it will be very effective if it is in the question answer form. However, there must be a distinct and definite assertion on the part of the person who produces the statement. Possibly, the declaration should be in written form in the exact words stated by the person who made the statement. When the magistrate record the dying declaration, then it should be in question and answer form, as the magistrate will opt the maximum information rightly, as in some cases dying declaration becomes the sole way to help in the conviction of the accused. Let us discuss some of the types in the elaborative form. First, let me discuss with regard to gestures and sign. In the case of Queen Emperor versus Abdullah, the appellant here was charged with the offense of murder before the Court of Sessions, that he had murdered one Dulari, a prostitute, by cutting her throat through a razor. It seems that one morning Dulari, with her throat cut, was taken to the police station and from there to the dispensary. She was alive till the morning. The postmortem report shows that the windpipe and the anterior wall of the gullet has been cut through. When Dulari was taken to the police station, she was questioned by her mother in presence of the sub-inspector. She was again questioned by sub-inspector, deputy magistrate, and subsequently the assistant surgeon. She was see basically her throat was slit, right? So she was unable to speak, but the conscious and able to make gestures and signs. Magistrates asked Dulari as who has wounded her, but due to injured condition, Dulari was unable to speak. After that, the magistrate mentioned several names one by one and asked if they had wounded her. Dulari moves her hand forward and backwards and made negative and affirmative signs. Subsequently, the magistrate asked whether Abdullah had wounded her. For that, Dulari waved her hand, made signs in affirmative. The magistrate recorded the statement. After that, question was put to her if she has been wounded with knife or sword. In this regard, Dulari made negative signs. Magistrate asked her if she had been wounded with a razor. She in answer to this made an affirmative sign. In this way, the magistrate records the dying declaration of Dulari, and the same was accepted as evidence to prosecute Abdullah. So even gestures and signs as a value of dying declaration. See, similarly, in recent Nirbhaya rape case also, dying declaration was made by her in form of sign and gesture. Dying declaration was made by Nirbhaya was recorded. The first dying declaration was recorded by the doctor when she was admitted in the hospital on the night of December 16, 2012. The second dying declaration was recorded on December 21st by the subdivisional magistrate, during which she gave exact details of the happening. The third declaration was made by Metropolitan Magistrate on December 25, and it was mostly by gestures. The bench said that as far as the third dying declaration is concerned, the court has already held that the dying declaration made through signs, gestures, or by nods are admissible as evidence. So the dying declaration in the form of gestures and signs also has admissibility value or evidentiary value. Next, let me discuss about the oral and written form of dying declaration. When the person gives the names of the murderer to a person present and written by any of them, then it is a relevant dying declaration. However, people may dispose the names of the mugger orally. A oral dying declaration is admissible in evidence as an exception to the general rule of evidence that hearsay evidence is no evidence in the eyes of law. The dying declaration made before his wife, father-in-law, or any other near relatives were made in conscious state is valid. See, in case of Amar Singh versus State of Rajasthan, the deceased mother and brother gave the evidence that the deceased made the statement month prior to the incident of suicide by her, that the appellant, that is her husband, used to taunt the deceased, saying that she had come from a hunger house, and the appellant himself go to the house of deceased and asked for 10,000. It was held that the dying declaration and the appellant were convicted under 304B, that is dowry harassment, dowry death, and 498A of Indian Penal Code. The court referred Pakala Narayana Swamy versus Emperor case, in which Lord Acton held that the circumstances of the transaction which resulted in the death of the declarant will be admissible in such transaction has some proximate effect. See, so basically you have to understand that there is no particular form to make a dying declaration. So dying declaration made in oral form or written form or in signs and gestures, all these forms are admissible. So now let me discuss about the admissibility of dying declaration. For the admissibility, following has to be fulfilled. Uh, Following essentials has to be fulfilled. So the essentials of dying declaration are as follows. So the dying declaration must relate to the cause of his death only, or refer to the circumstances or transaction which caused his death. So the dying declaration should not be a story. It should particularly mention about the cause of his death, and only should refer to the circumstances or transaction which caused his death. Secondly, the person making the statement, that is the declarant, must be found dead after making the statement. So when this statement is admissible as evidence, it has to be taken into consideration that the when it is provided as evidence, the person making the statement must be died. Then only it is said to be called as dying declaration. If the person is alive, then such statement cannot be treated as dying declaration. If such person does not die, the statement fails to fall under the category of dying declaration, and it might rather be treated as a statement under section 154 of Criminal Procedure Code and section 161 of Criminal Procedure Code. There must be proximity in time of in making of the statement and the time of death. This is very important while deciding whether the statement is covered under the category or not. So the proximity of time in making of statement and the time of death is very, very important. This is very important in deciding whether the statement is covered as the category of dying declaration or not. Next is the declarant must be mentally fit. So he should be mentally fit. That is, he should be a conscious oriented person, and he should, while making the statement, he should be fully aware that what he is stating uh, a dying declaration. Okay, so it should be a conscience oriented and fully aware and able to understand the aftermath of making a statement while giving the statement. So while giving the statement, the declarant should be completely mentally fit. That is very, very important. See, while giving the statement, he should be completely conscious in making the statement. Okay, so it isn't always necessary that the fact of mental fitness to be certified by the doctor. However, if there is a medical certificate to that effect, it proves it proves to be more effective and efficient. So you do not no need to go and get a physical mental certificate from a doctor. If it is certified by doctor, it has more evidentiary value. That is to be understood. Next is dying declaration can be made to any person or a doctor. That is, it can be made to a doctor, a magistrate, a police personnel, friend, or any other person. So it can be even to a nearby sweeper, nurse, to whomever it want, it can be made. So it can be made to any person, even to a friend, to a near relative, whatever it is. Okay, or any other person. However, if it is recorded by the magistrate, it accords more reliability or authenticity. Okay, so it has more evidentiary value. It has a high evidentiary value if it is uh, if it is uh, it has more evidentiary value if it is recorded by the magistrate. Okay, so the next is the statement must be complete and not vague. An incomplete statement will always leave a loophole and has more chances of being tampered. Thus, and incomplete statement will not be relevant. Okay, so dying declaration, if it is complete, it is more value. Okay, and the statement must be complete and should not vague. An incomplete statement is always leave a loophole, and there is a chance of tampering it. Okay, thus an incomplete statement, so any person can misinterpret with this incomplete statement. Hence, incomplete statement will not be relevant. The declarant must be competent as witness is also an important essential. So he must be capable of being a witness. He should it is not only necessary that he should have mental capacity, it is very important that the declarant must be competent as witness, and he must be capable of being a witness if he were not dead. To see this competency, we will be dealing with that under section 1. With regard to this competency of a witness, we will be dealing with that under section 118 of Indian Evidence Act. Okay, and next is, it is not necessary that the declarant is under the expectation of death while giving the statement. So it is completely not necessary, but the person made the statement must have died, but it is not necessary that the declarant is under the expectation of death while giving the statement. So this is a very important case, Pakkala Narayana Swamy versus Emperor. Okay, this is a landmark case to understand dying declaration. So the here the deceased was a man about 40 years of age. He had been a peon in Devan of Pitapur. Pakkala Narayan Swamy, the accused, was married to one of the daughter of Diwan of Pitapur. After marriage, Pakkala Narayana Swamy and his wife went to live at Berhampur, which is about 250 miles away from Pitapur. In the year of 1993, they came back to Pitapur, and where they stayed with the Diwan. They seemed that at that time to seem at that time to have been in need of money, and during 1936 the wife of the accused borrowed money from the deceased at various times, an amount of 3,000. On Saturday 18th March 1937, the deceased received a letter from the accused inviting him to come that day or next day to Berhampur. The deceased left his house in order to go there and catch the train of Berhampur. He did not come back. So on 23rd, 18th, he is just leaving the house, showing the letter to his wife. And on 23rd March 1937, the body of the deceased was found in a steel truck in the third class compartment at Puri railway station. The body has been cut into 7 portions. The body of the deceased was identified by his widow, and the accused was tried and convicted for murder and sentenced to death. During the trial, the widow of the deceased stated before the court that on that day her husband showed her a letter and said that he was going to Berhampur, as the appellant's wife had written to him to come and receive payment of his dues. The Lordship of Privy Council held that the statement related to the circumstances of the transaction which resulted in the death of the deceased, so it was relevant. So they also held that the statement made by the deceased that he was proceeding to the spot where he was killed, or as to his reason for proceeding, or that he was going to meet him, would each of them be the circumstances of the transaction. However, circumstances must have some proximate relation to the actual cause and must be related to the transaction which resulted in death. For instance, in the case of prolonged poisoning, they must relate to the date at the considerable distance from the date of the actual fatal date. It is not necessary that there should be a known transaction other than the death of the declarant has ultimately been caused comes into question. In the present case, that is in Pakala Narayana Swamy versus Emperor case, the cause of the death comes into question. The transaction is one in which the deceased was murdered on uh, 21st March or 22nd March. The statement he was setting out the place where the accused lived and to meet a person, the wife of the accused, who lived together with the accused appears to be clear statement as some transaction which resulted in his death. So now let us deal with the evidentiary value of dying declaration. So in case of K.R. Reddy versus public prosecutor, it was observed by the court that the evidentiary value of the dying declaration made by the deceased. There is no doubt that uh, uh, the dying declaration is admissible in the court under section 32 clause 1 of Indian Evidence Act 1872, and there is no compulsion while making dying declaration to take an oath, but the truth of the statement can be determined by the cross examination. The court has to ascertain necessary measure to check the uh, sanctity or veracity of the statement made by the deceased. As in Indian law, it is presumed that the person who is about to die will not lie, or the person who is about to meet his maker with a lie on his mouth or lie on his lip. This is because when the person is at his bed, end of all the desires and greed of person come to an end. So probably there is no motive to lie. After that, the court must be satisfied with the condition that the deceased must be in the fit state of mind while making the statement. After all the measures assured by the court and satisfied that that the statement is voluntary and true, then it is sufficient to accept the statement to finding the conviction even without corroboration. So the value, evidentiary value of dying declaration, that it can be a corroborative evidence. In some cases, it can be sole evidence for conviction. That is the important aspect that has to be noted in dying declaration. So now let me deal with the exceptions of dying declaration. There are many circumstances in which the statement made by the dying person is not admissible in a court of law. These conditions are as follows. If there is no question for consideration about the cause of the death of the deceased. For example, if a person in this declaration state anything which is not remote or having a connection with the cause of the death, uh, then the statement then the statement is not relevant and hence it is not admissible. See, there cannot be a stories cannot be treated as dying declaration. If the person is stating something that is not relevant to his death, that dying declaration cannot be treated as dying declaration. That declaration cannot be treated as dying declaration. The declarant must be competent to give dying declaration. If the dying declaration made by the child, then the statement will not be admissible in the court, as it is observed in the case of Amar Singh versus State of Madhya Pradesh, that without the proof of mental fitness or physical fitness, the statement would not be considered as reliable. So the mental fitness, even though it is not certified, it is very important to establish the mental fitness of the declarant. The third is, and the very important thing is, the statement which is inconsistent has no value. Okay, so inconsistent statements or incomplete statement or irrelevant statements has no value as dying declaration, and it cannot be considered as an evidentiary in nature. Next is the statement made by the deceased should be free from any influential pressure or and should be made spontaneous. Okay, it should be very spontaneous, and there shouldn't be any influential pressure upon the deceased or declarant. It is perfectly allowed to the court if they reject any untrue statement which is contradicting in nature. If there is any contradicting, or else if the person makes subsequent declaration and both the dying declaration or contradictory to each other, the court will completely reject both the statements. If the statement next is if the statement is incomplete or instance, which means it cannot answer the relevant question which are necessary to find the guilt, or on the counterpart the statement deliver nothing, so it will not be deemed to be considered. Next is the doctor's opinion and the medical certificate should with the statement and support that the deceased is capable of understanding what statement he is makes. So even after the death, there can be a doctor's opinion that in such state is it possible for a person to make a dying declaration. That is also so effective. Next is if the statement is not according to the prosecution, if the statement is not according to the prosecution, in this regard, the following points to be taken into consideration by the apex court. While making the statement, the deceased must be fit mind of state, and secondly, should be recorded by the magistrate or the police officer and any person in case if the disease was precarious. Okay, so if it is possible, if it is possible to call of the magistrate to record the declaration, it should has been taken into consideration. If you have time and space or whatever it is, if it is possible to call for the magistrate, it should have been done. A dying declaration should be recorded in question answer form and written in words of the person exactly who gives the statement. So it has to be exactly as stated by the declarant. Okay, there cannot be interpretation over there. Okay, so whatever the words that are specified by the dying declarant must be recorded as it is. Okay, so the dying declaration is not specifically mentioned in our penal law of penal law, that is Indian Penal Code. It is the statement made by the person who is going to die, and the statement will be considered as evidence in court. However, his death caused and how his death is caused and who is the mugger or who is the accused should be identified through that dying declaration. Then only that dying declaration is uh, admissible as an evidence. So there are many conditions that relied upon dying declaration, that it should be in adequate manner as dying declaration. Uh, dying declaration is the weapon to convict the accused and stood as a strong evidence. So the dying declaration can be also a sole evidence to convict an accused. However, the dying declaration, if found to be malicious or made, then the court made in what to say, which is not relevant, then the court has the right to reject the statement. Or there are other situations and circumstances which coupled with dying declaration for the admissibility. That is, there may be sometimes dying declaration may be a sole evidence to convict an accused, or uh, it may be in some other situations, in some cases it may be a corroborative in nature. Okay, so with this I'm done with the concept of dying declaration. Thank you so much. We'll meet in another lecture.